Okay, so hello everybody and welcome to my introduction to AuraTransformation. So it's a pretty big universe, AuraTransformation. There are many books. I think I have like 29 videos on YouTube about all the different aspects and all the different, well, the impact it has, the theory behind it. There's just so much to it, and it's multi-layered, and it is very hard to put into even an hour and a half. But I'll do my best to do a sort of overview. And also I know that people in my world are not only, spiritual, esoteric types. I am a major geek on consciousness, energy. I wouldn't even use the word spirituality. I'm not really in spiritual circles or any of that, but I do know, the theory and the lingo is there. So I might drop in the odd term that isn't layman's terms, just for those people in the room that want to know like the deeper levels of this. So I'm going to try and keep it understandable for anybody in any walk of life, but also, make it interesting for those that are geeky like me. So yeah, I'm Sarah Jennings, and I had my aura transformation in 2013, and I really needed it. And I'm going to get to that, like why and what was going on for me that led me to that in a bit. And then I knew instantly that it was going to be a big, huge part of my life. I knew that I would train in it. So I trained in 2000. So I had it like 2013, like the November. And then by February, January, I was trained. And then I went on to more training with the founder, Annie Senov, in Finland. And then within like 5 minutes, I was sharing this in South Africa, because I could see that where I'd come from, and then me suddenly coming out talking about aura transformation, there was quite a lot of backlash and confusion, and people were like, I suppose there wasn't a lot of trust in me, having been crazy Sarah, party Sarah, or whatever I was doing, and suddenly talking about this. But the proof was in the pudding, and people saw the change in me. Like, people would walk past me in the street and be rather shocked at how I looked so different in such a short space of time. And it wasn't different in like not me, it was just like a healthier and sparklier and more radiant me every time they saw me. This was in Lancaster, and I very soon ended up introducing this in, it's a long story why, but I ended up taking it to South Africa, and I went 6 times in a short space of time, like a couple of years. I made lots of friends there, and because people just took me on face value of like who I was presenting, it just took off there. So in a way, I built trust and belief in what I was doing abroad. And then my life really changed in the UK. And soon I was in, like, over the next, this is me 2014 still. And then over the next, until the pandemic, so 2020, I've introduced it in Canada, Taiwan. That was a very full-on experience. I've taken it to Australia. I've taken it to, well, I really did bring it to the north of England. I mean, there was already a lot of practitioners, some that are in the room, that were doing it down south, but not in the north, and now in Scotland. And I also took it to Devon when I lived there before here. So I've taken it into a lot of places, and I've done this thing many times where I'm just introducing it. I'm like, okay, this is something you've probably never heard of. So when the pandemic hit, though, it was, I couldn't do in-person work, not really. So I just gave it a rest. I just thought, I'm going to park it just because that was the only thing I could really do for that time being. So the whole network kind of went dormant, and this is me reactivating it. I've skipped a bit, hang on. So before the pandemic, I also trained, I was basically headhunted in being asked to be an instructor for this modality. So there's only, I think there's now 8 of us, half of us are ready to go, and the other 4 are in training. And there's been many others in the past, but the network's changed a lot. The founder died a number of years ago, and that always brings a lot of change. So yeah, it's fluctuated a lot in the last few years, but everything's settling really beautifully now. But training as an instructor is pretty grueling. I think it took me 4 years or so, and you have to be participant or teach at least 32 people how to do aura transformations in that time. And the courses are intense. There is a lot of energy moving in a room. There's a lot of transformation, not only for the people becoming aura mediators is what they're called, but also all of the people coming for their aura transformation on the course. So you're building the muscle, and then you're really expanding to be able to hold that much energy. So it's been a very powerful journey for me from the 2013 to now. And 10 days before the pandemic hit, I was running the biggest course that had ever happened in the UK. And it was the one where I kind of graduated, and half of it I taught completely on my own. And that was the, me being set free to teach. And people came from all over the world. So it's been very an international experience for me as well. And then the pandemic happened, and then I was in Scotland, and so it all happened very quick. 10 days before running the course, 10 days before the pandemic, that final course, 4 days before the pandemic, I've moved into a new house in Scotland in the middle of nowhere. And then what can you do? No aura transformation, no aura mediator courses. And so most of you in this room maybe know me because of all the stuff I've been doing since then, which is all my online work, because I'm a kinesiologist, and I've created online courses which are group kinesiology based. So they're transformational courses. We do a lot of healing work, but also grounded, practical, make stuff happen work. And so some of you might know me because of the Visibility Gateway. Some of you might know me because of Money Gateway or Transmute Distortion, which all three of those are for practitioners in the healing arts. So I support and advocate for quality and integrity for practitioners in the wellness field. And there's another course that you might know me because of called Heart Retrieval or Love Again. And that is something I created all through my kinesiology work, but it's to do with untangling from previous relationships and healing core wounding. So I don't know where everyone's come from, but that's maybe where you've heard about me from. But this is those are my babies, the courses and my work over many years coming together. As the pandemic started, it gave me the opportunity to sit there and just get it out. So it's been a very busy couple of years, but the aura transformation is a huge part of my dharma or my mission. It's like part of who I am. It's very important for me to do this work. And I was very excited that 3 weeks ago, I had the first certification course, which means people that are already aura mediators, they've already trained, but they're coming back for like a refresher updating thing. And that just happened. So that for me marked like the reopening of aura transformation again. And so tangible, the energy and how it's even transformed how I feel compared to the last few years into the last few weeks. I could feel it ramping up, this energy, and there's a very special quality to the energy that is what we're using or working with in aura transformation. We call it the crystal energy, and we call it's the Venus energy for the geeks out there. And it has a very clear, crystal clear quality, sort of sharp, not sharp like cutting, but sharp as in vision, clear and sharp, focused. It's grounded, but very elevated at the same time. It's a very high frequency energy, and it's a very powerful energy. So just doing the certification course at my house with 5 aura mediators, and people had an aura transformation here. I mean, I could feel all of that really. It's not that it went away, but it was like a refresh for myself, and it was just so good. It made me really realize how I'm not surprised. I've found the last 3 years a bit weird, like I'm sure everyone has, but not doing what you love in this way has been, I didn't realize till I'd touched it again how much I've missed it and how much it means to me. So this talk, I hope I can convey the power and magic of aura transformation. And I have got loads of slides. I hope I don't get all like, I'm usually probably better just like this, but I want to use the slides because it'll help you visualize things. And I'd like to put like a caveat that I'm telling you a story about energy and consciousness and the universe and how humans work. So I'd like you to see it as a story. I'm telling you a nice bedtime story on a Tuesday night, like, this is, when you're talking about energy and consciousness, you should always take it with a grain of mythos and, well, imagine trying to put a flag and naming it something and getting everyone else to agree when it's an energy and it moves and it changes and it shifts and it evolves all the time. It's very hard to put a flag in moving energy and then all agree on what it's called. So I'm just, I'm kind of opening it up that you don't have to believe everything I say. Just see it as that I'm trying to explain a phenomenon that is hard to explain. So this is language that we've adopted to help convey it. And also I have many practitioner friends in different fields. For example, my best friend's a chiropractor, and we have argued like many a time about different words that I use than he uses. And then in the end, like a year later, many arguments later, we've realized that we're talking about the same thing. We've just named like it different word. So there is that too. If you're a practitioner, you might be like, hey, that's not what we call that bit. Okay, so just kind of, this is our little glossary of terms, and they might mix with yours or clash with some of yours, and that's okay. It's okay. Okay, where to start? So, well, AuraTransformation is a treatment or a process. It's 4 hours with a practitioner and in 2 sessions in the UK. In some other countries, it's not. It's over 1 session. But in England, in UK, it's needed to be 2 because of how mixed up and interesting and messy our energies are here, and our history as well. But what it really ultimately does is, in a nutshell, is really brings you into your body, really helps you land in the physical. So a lot of us can be very mental in the head, or a lot of us could be very, very far away because we don't want to be on Earth. Some of us are super traumatized, so we decided to escape. Some of us, away with the fairies or something. So there's like it really helps you get into your body. Some people are already very much in their body, but they're not happy or not content. So there's stuff going on there, which it'll become clearer later. But it is doing many things at the same time, and I'm going to try and explain it. The whole process of that 4-hour session is just the on button to a much longer process. That's why you might have seen me post, people had their 8 years ago and they still love it, because it doesn't wear off. It's not like, oh, the session was lovely, I'm gonna have to go back again. It's kind of not like that. It's more that we're starting off a process called crystallization. And crystallizing means that we are crystallizing, like making solid your spirit energy in your body. And that is something that is happening over the entire planet. Earth is in a way crystallizing, humanity is crystallizing, and it's available to everyone, but it would take us older adults, and the dates will become clear in a minute. It would take us older adults maybe an entire lifetime and maybe into the next before we would really get there. So this is it's like a springboard and a helping hand to help adults embody their spirit energy, or be more in the body, and be more here and make things happen. So it's not wishy-washy and woo-woo. It's more like, come on, let's get in here, let's get going, let's be able to have a vision and an idea and actually make it happen in the real world. It really helps people, like, I suppose you could say, raise their vibration, if that's important to you. I think I'll just start, because otherwise I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in terms of my pictures. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so I thought I'd start with what's an aura, because I don't know if everyone would know what that is. And in a way, I really love these pictures. I'm not sure where they've come from. I've had them for so long. but that is kind of how I would see, well, an aura, and what we call the old aura. But an aura is basically the compound of every thought, every feeling, everything that's ever happened to you, every trauma, every habitual pattern of behavior, all your ancestry, all the epigenetic load that you have inherited, i.e. emotional, consciousness, behavioral load you've inherited from your ancestry. It is so much information and vibration, and it can get very messy and very loud and very unorganized and very distorted. And it can also just, it's almost like your aura can start dragging you down or fighting with you on some level. And that's how a lot of people come to an aura transformation. There's a lot, you know, it kind of feels busy. It's like not a regulated energy field. And so why would we transform an aura? I mean, why is that even possible? And I think maybe a way of looking at it, a concept, if you like, is we upgrade our phones all the time. We upgrade the operating system on our computers all the time. We're upgrading the processing power. We're upgrading the bandwidth. We're upgrading so much of our environment and technology. Like 100 years ago, we were on horse and cart, and now we've adapted to all these technologies. And we're upgrading our tech, but not ourselves necessarily. And so I guess if you're more mechanically minded, an aura transformation could be seen as an upgrade of your operating system to help you deal with your environment easier, in a simpler way, and to be less, in a way, to be less susceptible to viruses and programs. And I don't mean like viruses that make you ill. I mean more like, well, I do that, I mean that, but not, I don't mean viruses. I mean viruses like thought viruses or emotional viruses, or things that plug into us that make us feel and think in certain ways. Marketing does that to us too. Hollywood does that to us too. You know, we're kind of pushed and pulled in our behaviors and what we're supposed to think and how we're supposed to look. You know, there's a lot of pressure on our edges and on our thoughts of how we're supposed to be. And anyway, it's getting really busier and busier. And adults are finding it harder and harder to actually clear this up or to feel balanced in this environment. And the old aura, in a way, is actually not really up to scratch to what we're trying to do now. And what we call the old aura, I'm sorry it's called that. It's a translation from Danish. It's a shame it's called old, because it's not like an insult to older people. It's just, we're just named it the old aura. And it is basically like trying to imagine we're trying to run an old Nokia with 5G or something. It's not, it doesn't really work. You can't open apps on the old Nokia. So that's a bit like what's happening with our old auras and how we're trying to assimilate in the new time energies that we're in. So where did this come from? And her name is, how do I change page? Oh, right, here we go. This actually is just some, I don't know where I think I got these off Joe Dispenza, I'm not sure. But this is just an idea of, you know, like what is an aura, how can it impact you? So this was a photograph of someone before meditation and then after meditation. There's far more radiance. You know, when someone is really in their body and their energy has got a sort of harmony, an integrity and a simplicity of spirit and an innocence, you know, like just playful, happy, content person, the aura is going to look more like this, you know, like sunny and bright. Whereas someone with chronic drug abuse or that doesn't know how to clear or work with their energy, you know, we're looking at a distorted pattern, not optimal. And it's the same, this is another picture from somewhere else. You might have seen things like this, you know, things can get in like thought forms, things can push and pull us in our environment and can impact on our, you know, like you might call it like psychic attack or toxic people or something like that can get in and suck us dry, if you like. So I just thought I'd put them in this just to give an idea of what we're talking about with an aura. So Annie Senov is Danish, and she created AuraTransformation in 1996 or 94. I think it was 96. And she the story goes is that she was very unwell years and years ago. She had a skin condition. It was called asthmatic eczema or something like that. Like, really, from what I remember her telling me, is that it was like her skin was falling off. She was just so unwell. She had no protection in her energy field. It was like she couldn't hold herself together. It was like she was disintegrating, was the feeling. She managed to get well enough with treatment to conceive a child. And then when she had this child, the whole house was filled with a new energy. And she was already a clairvoyant, psychic, astrologer type person back then, and realized that the children were different now. Not only her son, but all the children in the hospital, being born at the time, and also lots of authors in the consciousness energy world were talking about this shift in consciousness that they were seeing in the children, which we now call indigo children. And so it wasn't just her. It's not just her thing. It's not just a Danish thing. AuraTransformation is actually built from a worldwide phenomenon, which I'll go into shortly. But she basically went into she could feel this energy, this powerful bluey indigo energy in the house with her newborn upstairs. And she had her friend come and help her. And it was all very intuitive. And her friend held her ankles, kind of anchored her, and she dissolved what was basically left of her frazzled, disintegrating energy field. And it kind of melted away, and some process happened, which I'll explain shortly. And this indigo type energy wrapped around her. And then from that point on, she had very strong energy. She was whole again. Her health just shot back. And she'd walk down the street, people would be like, how on earth have you gone from looking 90 to like looking your age and glowing in such a short space of time? And eventually she had queues of people at the house going like, can you do this for me too? And wanting to experience it. So that's how the Aura Mediator courses were born. They started with her just trying to, show other practitioners how to do what she'd done. And then years later, we have like amazing, resources and an amazing course to teach practitioners how to do it that's robust and, a powerful course. It's like, I can't find the words I'm looking for, but so that's where it sort of came from, is that it happened to her, and then she's tried to translate that into what's happening. So what is an aura transformation? It's a one-time energy treatment which increases the frequency in both our body and energy system to match the energy systems of today's young children. During an aura transformation, our old aura is dissolved, and the resulting upgrade leaves us with a new aura that is perfectly suited to the new energies of today's world. So just so that you can see them in a row. This is, I don't know, can you see my cursor moving over the, Avril, I can see your face. Can you see it? Yeah. So that's the old aura. This is sort of like how they would look if they were next to each other. This old aura here. And this is the indigo aura that her son was born with. These are the crystal children, and these are the crystal indigo people. So in an aura transformation, we're actually helping adults dissolve this. And then you're moving into used to actually, when I trained originally, or when I had my aura transformation all those years ago, I did end up being indigo for a short period of time as I moved through these stages. They're like a timeline stage. And now people are pretty much mostly 98% of the time end up straight away in the crystal energy, because time is moving on. So we call this is an aura structure, like an operating system that I think it's like 26,000 years old. It's like, I would say it was an operating system that was pretty good at some point, but it's gotten harder and harder to navigate the world we're in. These are, we call them the fourth dimension indigo bridge. The indigo children came along, and I'll show you the timeline in a minute, to show us what is not working in our old aura world. They are just, sometimes they're like seen as the rebels. They want to rattle the cage. They're like, we don't like it here. This is not right. You know, they've come to point out where we've got it really wrong. And their spirit energy is what you can see is around their body is massive. Our spirit energy or higher self is above, like on a string, high above, somewhere up here, shouting at us like, you know, listen to me. And here the indigos have their spirit energy around the body. So they look much bigger and wider, but they're also very reactive. So they're around 27 years old to like 18 to 27. But we'll get into the dates in a second. The crystal children, you see them, they're more compact. Basically, their spirit energy is not around the body like that. It's in the body. Their whole spirit energy or higher self is part of the body, part of the aura. And then eventually they become crystal humans, but with the golden energy of the earth integrated. So it's like the next step. So this is talking about evolution of consciousness and the shift in consciousness on planet Earth at the moment. Some people might call it the Great Awakening. It's been prophesized for many centuries and been awaited, like we're waiting for this change, this awakening. It's the astrological change of the, you know, the cycles are changing. So there's been a lot of, this isn't something that we've pulled out of a hat. This is across the board being spoken about in many different ways. And this is how we speak about it. And so why is aura transformation happening at this time? The Earth's frequency has significantly increased within a very short amount of time. The children of today are born with a new time energy system that has much higher frequency than that of their parents and other adults around them. So I hear this time and time again, and I can tell from when I look at my daughter who's 15, born a crystal child, she's still like so different to how I was as a child. And sometimes, and then I put all her friends next to each other and they're like 100 times more sensible than we ever were as kids. And I don't know if you've been around young people, but there is something different about them. And it doesn't mean that, and I don't mean different like special. I just mean that there's a different quality to their energy or to their presence or to their wisdom even, or to their knowing somewhere. So today's adults were born within what we call the all-time energy system that is no longer optimal for the time we're living in. Ooh, hang on. Moving into the new time is the next step in Earth expansion and development into a higher frequency. This is also true for us humans, both in our bodies and our energy fields. Many people feel out of balance today because of their all-time energy. They're not feeling in alignment with their surroundings. So I've sort of said that. So here are the dates. We see it that people that are born before 1987, so please, we can't draw lines in the sand. Like I said, these dates are very actually unique as well, you know, and there's many factors to people's, so what I'm talking about here is the structure of the aura. We say vaguely around before 1987 is what we call the old aura. From about 95 to 2004, we call it the indigo people. And then 2004, 2009-ish is indigo crystal. So there's a called transition. So we actually have between 87 and 94, we have we call them transition kids. They're not really kids anymore, but that is also a very strange place to be born in, and actually a bit of a struggle because you have one foot in the old world, one foot in the new world, and it's a challenge, you know, energetically. But also one individual might be very old aura and have a little bit of indigo energy, and others born exactly the same year might have almost all indigo with a little bit of an old aura structure thing going on. So it's very unique to the person and the individual, and as a practitioner you learn over time how to spot all the differences. Crystal children born, I would say around 2007 onwards, because my daughter was 2007 and Annie Senov's daughter too, and it was almost like they came early because this indigo aura people living in the houses of their parents that are old auras, it was almost like a little mini war in each household of old world versus new world. So the crystal children come along and they're almost like little peacekeepers in a way. They're like way more balanced. I don't know if you saw the slide before, it said balance on all levels. And when you become crystal human, so the children are crystal humans, and if you have an aura transformation, you become more and more crystal. You are looking, and your body and system is looking for balance all the time in all areas of life in the body. So the crystal children kind of come into an environment where there's maybe volatility or frequency differences, and they're kind of trying to level it out. But that's hard work for them too, at the end of the day. And then we have 2012 onwards, crystal children are born with lots of golden energy in the body, and that's the earth energy. So another way of looking at this, well, it's just, this is dotted around a few times, just to get used to it. What else can I say right now? So when you have an aura transformation, we're dissolving all the layers of the old aura so that you have no more gap between you and your spirit energy, so that it wraps around your entire body. And over the following year, maybe 2 years, really there's no like rule exactly, but it takes time to crystallize your spirit energy into your body fully. So this is not only an evolution of when children are born with different structures, but also what happens when you have an aura transformation. We dissolve this, you kind of go quite quickly through this bit, and now you're slowly crystallizing, and eventually you start crystallizing the golden energy in your body. And I just need to use my hands for a second. So why that way of looking at that, like why is that happening, is the spirit energy is becoming more part of material energy. When we say awakening, or people are awakening, or if we talk about embodiment or enlightenment, or all these things that we do with our practices, is we're trying to, become more our spirit. And that is not just us individually or some geeky spiritual people that are trying to do that. It's actually a phenomenon over a much wider perspective of what's happening on Earth. And my understanding is that the Venus energy, the spirit energy, is trying to make our matter, like the Earth matter, more spirit. It's like lightening the load. And we often talk about dimensions when you're learning how to do an aura transformation and learning how to spot when we are in different dimensions or to travel in between them. And if we look at people that were born, I don't know, 100 years ago, and they're tilling the land and they're horse and cart, and life is hard and you have to work hard to make anything happen. You have to spend a lot of time moving earthly matter around to make things happen on Earth. And slowly we have moved into different levels or dimensions of consciousness as time goes by. Like the level of consciousness during, the protests for the Vietnam War, the hippie movement, for example, we call that the third dimension. So the general population, if we added everyone's consciousness up and called it Earth and checked the environment, we would say we've gone from first, second, third, and now we're kind of moving into the fourth dimension, but we're still sort of in the third. And the children have been born in that last period of time, have introduced this frequency or this energy in the atmosphere. So it's all around us, it's everywhere. And their energy is more spirit than, say, first, second, third dimension. Does that make sense, vaguely, what I'm saying to people? So it's like the whole world is crystallizing, awakening, becoming more spirit, infusing matter with more lightness, if you like, light as in light, not, And so we're talking about from the old aura, which is pretty much in the third, we're talking about moving to the fourth, to the fifth. Right. Where are we? Let's see. So it's just another slide to see that there's a difference in the aura structures moving through time. So we don't really need that right now. So through an aura transformation, you will have more protection of your physical body, be in direct contact with your consciousness on a daily basis, have a quick and smooth integration of higher energy frequencies on Earth in your body and consciousness, meaning you will expand faster and you'll be able to keep your own energy to yourself. That's really important. And rather than giving your power away or energy away, you'll have stronger intuition and drive. Your spirit energy is more in charge or in your body, so you can hear it more. You are more in contact with your truth and your passion, and which is your dharma, and find yourself more whole and together with more energy, charisma, and joy. And I can testify to all of those. So we have, it's hard to say because we don't know how, I think there's at least there's more than 800 aura mediators now than since I did these slides. More than 100,000 AuraTransform people. And I think we're actually 8 instructors now, which is great. And we've actually, rather than being picked and headhunted and trained in the way that I was, we are opening it up to make it more available as a system to be learned by more people. So that's exciting. Lots of shifts and change happening there. So some people, I did write that article yesterday, I think it was, saying like, why would you maybe want an aura why would you need one or want one? And things that people often talk about, there's a lot of I said when your aura is all busy and loud, there's a lot more irritability and frustration. There's a lot more negative mind chatter. There's a lot of repeating the same behaviors again and again, and you've tried, and it seems to be hard to, it's like ingrained in your field and you just keep repeating it. Someone said this the other day, does it help with feeling like someone else, like you're not really living your life yourself? It's like life is happening to you. And I've heard that so many times, and it definitely is very helpful for that. Because in a way, it's almost like you're so far out of your body somewhere, parts of you, that you're not really here in the now. Some people might feel very oversensitive to everything, even yourself. That's quite funny. I was like that, I think. So a need to self-treat. So if you find that you're spending 2 hours a day or something meditating and affirmations and yoga practice and breath work, you're doing lots every day just to feel okay enough to go out in the world, then that's not all right. That's not right somewhere. There's something like not right with the field. The protection of the energy field is not strong enough just to hold you together long enough for you to feel like you can go out in the world. So if there is this, like, I know so many people that when they read that, they're like, oh my God, there's another way, because it does take so much time, having to wake up at like 4 a.m. to do a massive practice just to be able to leave the house. It's not, there's another way. It feels like life's happening very fast. A feeling that your consciousness is changing faster than you can keep up with. And then there's physical stuff. People talk about ringing in the ears, allergies, skin problems, like the skin it's almost like the protection's gone so much that it's like the skin isn't even got integrity anymore. Lots of fatigue, dizziness, joint pain, headaches, sleep difficulties, all sorts of things. I mean, that could be, arguably anything. These are quite old slides, but I think what I would say is that it's incredible if you have children, because you're going to be able to match the children on the same frequency that you're on. So I know that when I had my aura transformation, my daughter noticed, she was 6 years old at the time, and she noticed within a couple of days, it took a couple of days for her to notice, but she was like, wow, you're in the room, mummy. She put a hand on my face and she was like, you're in the room. And I felt like I was in the room for the first time with my child, rather than her being this like noisy thing that was running around me and me trying to keep up. It was like me and her spirit were in the same space and communicating, and it was an entirely different way of being with my own child. So I know that it's amazing for parents, for grandparents, or anyone that's around young people, teachers. I know lots of teachers that have done it because they're in rooms with lots of crystal indigo children. And it's very, there's so many benefits to it. Let's see. Okay, so you've seen this probably. I mean, I do post them. I get a bit embarrassed like posting them again, but I don't care. I'd rather people had an aura transformation than my embarrassment at reposting my before and after pictures. So what I'm going to do now is try and explain the anatomy of an old aura, but by speaking about my story, because actually it's a very good illustration of what someone with a kind of dilapidated difficult, messed up old aura. All the things that could possibly go wrong with an old aura are happening for me in those pictures. And then what it would look like to be sort of crystallizing into a crystal aura. So this picture is actually, I know that this picture was 6 months before my aura transformation, because I still live in the same house and I soon moved out. So this is taken very close together. This is like 6 months between that, the photo 1 and 2, and I've had an aura transformation in between. I can't tell you exactly how long. So it's a very dramatic change in how my energy is in my body and how my spirit, where my spirit is. You can see, how should I start? Let me just show you this one too, just for the sake of, this is longer period between, so that I still live in the same house as the first one. And this is 2 houses later. So, you know, I'd say there's like for at least 5 years maybe between these two. 4 years, maybe 4 years. But, you know, it doesn't wear off. It kind of got stronger and more grounded and more solid and more. And I'd like to also add that I do not wear makeup. I don't own foundation stuff. I do put under eye stuff, and I was wearing mascara at the time, but pretty much the same amount of makeup in each picture, not much, basically. And the same with the other picture. So a little bit about what was happening. I'm going to take this off. Stop. Okay, so in the first pictures, I always wanted to change the world, make the world a better place. That was definitely something very important to me from a very young age. My dad is like a world leader in human rights and labor movements and, you know, union guy. And I've seen him be charismatic and rallying masses towards good causes. My mum's an artist. So I've always had that, I want to make a difference. And I grew up in an international school, so I have very international energy. I can kind of fit in anywhere. And it was the same thing. There was always like a wanting to do something good with my life. And so I was like a straight A student, very, you know, driven. And I went to uni and I thought, so I started being like a bit of an activist, I suppose, a social activist at university. I kind of fell into the crowd of anarchists and people that, you know, are protesting and wanting, you know, we're being taught how the world's not quite right and then wanting to do something about it. So I was kind of in that zone, which was very exciting. We were also very alternative, and we were building yurts in the square of university and inviting poor students in to have cups of tea with us. And, you know, it was like we were trying to make a difference on some level. And I ended up living actually in a yurt type structure myself for 1.5 years. And I did that to create like survival skills in myself, because I just felt like a little Swiss girl that didn't have a clue. So I kind of really pushed myself in lots of directions, thinking, well, the aim being that I'm I suppose developing and I'm dissolving the false matrix narratives that I'd been brought up in and felt that were lies or false. So I felt like there was a need to break off this sort of clay mold of structures that didn't feel right for someone that has, I suppose I had a lot of new time energy in me. But I went too far with the deconstructing and the taking away the layers. I kind of pushed the boundaries way too far. I was in the party scene. There was a lot of recreational fun, but I took it too far as well. And in a way, I really dissolved way too much of myself, and also attracted lots of toxic relationships and difficult situations. So I was kind of traumatized. But at the same time working really hard, and I'm still trying to save the world somewhere at this point. And I've worked for charities, I worked for Oxfam, I've worked for development education centers, I was getting funding for racism in rural areas, and like I'm doing all this stuff, but it really feels like I'm not changing the world at all. And then I realized that I've actually just really messed myself up somewhere, and I feel like I'm failing, and it feels ineffective, and it feels like this isn't working or not what I expected. And there was a few deep and powerful moments of like, I've messed up, or I've failed, I failed myself. And people were worried about me. They were like, if you carry on, you will be, you know, in the gutter, dead somewhere, kind of thing. And so I was kind of deteriorating, and I had psoriasis head to foot, and it was like my body's shouting and screaming at me. And then I started realizing that during all of this, that there was some sort of healing abilities happening. So this will all, what I'm telling you is going to illustrate points in a moment. I was starting to, you know, see and feel energy. I was like cosmic Sarah, not crazy Sarah now. You know, I was always talking about energy balls and stuff like that. And, you know, like I was like, look at this energy ball I've made at a party or something. And, you know, people would be like, we don't know what Sarah's talking about. And then at one point, my friend really hurt her head. She like really thwacked it, and I just put my hands on her head, and we both jumped. There was like electricity coming out of my hands. We both were a bit shocked and surprised, like, what is this? And she says, wow, what was that? Do it again. And I would pay you for that, Sarah. And then something clicked of like, oh my God, like this is my world, is that I'm totally interested in consciousness and energy, and I'm seeing so much. I'm going through a huge awakening of psychic powers, which is not a pleasant experience. So I'm in the party scene, I'm in the magical worlds, and that is a terrible mixture when you've blown off your energy field. I had no energetic protection, and I'm mixing worlds that don't mix. And so it's all very heightened, and it was quite scary. But basically, I was riddled at this point. It was a beautiful kind of shamanic worlds. You know, I'm seeing behind the veil. I can see like stuff on people at parties, and you know, it's a bit horrible and weird, and like, what's going on? But I'm starting to be having the weird experiences are getting weirder, and I'm waking up in the middle of the night with entities trying to attack me and rape me, and very difficult things happening in that way. And I'm learning every night. I'm scared sometimes, I'm paralyzed other times, and I'm fighting them off other times, and then I'm being like a ninja other times. And the whole process was me, actually, now I realize, as a, you know, for me, it was what I call a spirit-led shamanic initiation at the time. I was learning about being in my power, being in alignment, being in my spirit, being in my innocence. I was having to, I kind of broke everything, so I had to build it again. There was a kind of self-led somewhere, but like not, it was like parts of me leading some kind of very crazy experiences for me to learn how to be who I am now. So it was a very powerful experience, but also very scary, and I don't recommend it. But I'm in the party world, and all this is happening, but also in the magic world, and I'm trying very hard to get out of the party world, and I do really well, and I actually like kind of managed to kind of eject myself. But then like 6 months later, someone knocks on the door at my house, and they're like, hey, we're all here from Leeds, let's party. And it's like people I haven't seen in a long time, and da da da. And I kind of slipped back into that old world just one more time. And I paid the price. It was the wake-up call you do not want. I literally fell from top to bottom of the stairs like a rubber doll thing, and I don't really remember much of what happened. But the next day, I said, ooh, like my back's really bad, and my friend went to like massage it, and he was like, I can't even touch that, it's just, don't know what you've done. And I'm working and driving. I drive quite a long way to work for Oxfam, and I couldn't drive anymore eventually. I couldn't pick up things that I had to pick up. I was struggling to even hug my daughter eventually. And 2 months after the fall, I have to take 9 months off work. I mean, I get signed off, basically. My chiropractor, osteopath person, I went to him, and he'd known me for years, and he just said, what have you done, Sarah? You know? And I'm lying there, and it feels like he did like 40 adjustments. It was that bad. He's like, every vertebrae was thwacked. My hips were like this, my shoulders like that. It was a mess. And he did a lot of adjusting, and he just left me lying there for a bit. And I heard a voice say, are you listening now? And I went, yes, I am definitely listening now. Tears were coming down, and it was a huge moment for me. It was a realization that I could have crippled myself. I could have died. It was that, I kind of landed on my chin. So I could have left my daughter motherless. It was a big wake-up call. And it was also, I was so close to leaving that world anyway. There was just the final straw, like you knew, and I didn't listen. And so that 9 months off work, I battened down the hatches. I created almost like a military spiritual itinerary for myself. I had no teacher, just that I'm going to have to, I knew that I had to sort of clear a lot. So I call this period of my life the life review. Every single day, I think I did a 21-day cycle. I went through every chakra one chakra a day, one tarot card of the major arcana a day, and then then I was doing like Reiki stuff. That was how I thought, oh, it's energy stuff that I'm doing. So I trained in Reiki very quickly after I put my hand on my friend's head that time. And so I was kind of just doing Reiki on myself and doing that for 20 days, and then 21 days, and then another 21 days, and then another 21 days. And I cried pretty much every single day. And I thought I would never stop crying. And I didn't know if the tears would ever end. And it was like a big, fat, dark night of the soul. It was deeply uncomfortable, but it was almost like me unweeding and unpicking like every single little last bit of, like just shame, guilt, low self-esteem, and all sorts of stuff. And it was a really powerful time. And after, I think it was like, I don't know, a good few months of this, I felt like really good about myself. But there was a few things that were not fixed or I hadn't been able to do by myself. And some of those things were the negative thought patterns that I had running wild every day before I even opened my eyes. And I'd kind of lived with this most of my life. Just horrible thought patterns. You're not good enough. What's the point? Who are you to think you do that? All this stuff. And because I was unweeding lots of energy, I was really alchemizing and taking out daggers and all sorts of stuff. But for some reason, I couldn't really impact the thought patterns and I didn't really get it. So I started automatic journaling and realized and this is my grandmother, who, she passed away a long time ago, but she had a difficult life and she didn't get to self-realize as the artist she really was, because she was a wife and moved to a new country and had children. So there was a kind of bitterness and twisted, but I recognized the words. So I kind of worked out epigenetics and how it's passed down without knowing about epigenetics. But that was helpful to know, like, okay, I figured out it's my ancestral negative sort of I've inherited some sort of attitude to life, and it's kind of plugged in like whoop onto my head. Doesn't matter what I try, it's still there. Even my awareness of it doesn't make it go away. So that was like, that's weird. Like I can't shift it. The other one I couldn't shift was powerful rage and anger projected towards my ex partner, my daughter's dad. There was just so much anger, and it was almost like impossible to find forgiveness in my body. Like I couldn't do it. I tried everything, like love and light and I forgive you and crystals and anything at the time, and it wouldn't shift. It was just like powerful. It would ignite like lightning in my energy field and I'd be powerless to it, like a very powerful triggering happening, and it was very uncomfortable. There was other things. What was the other thing? The last thing that seemed to be unable to impact or shift was the fact that I felt intuitively that I have no protection in my energy field. So I literally walk past people. So this is even with all the work I've done. I'm walking past people and I can hear their thoughts, and then I'm walking around with their thoughts for a brief amount of time. And because I've been on my own so much at that point, like hermit, I was hypersensitive. I was also practicing some energy work on friends, and then would go home with their stuff, which was definitely not my stuff. And I was like, this isn't right. I'm not supposed to be absorbing and then living people's stuff that isn't mine. And then I realized, like my protection is shot. I've blown it off. And so I realized then, I need something else. And that's when AuraTransformation came into my field. I can't even remember how I heard about it. And I just was like, oh my God, I read the blurb and I was like, tick, 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 tick. I need all those things right now. And so I went and had it done. And yeah, wow, within a few hours, there was obviously so much different. The next day I was sat in the train, or a couple of days later, sat on the train going home, and there was no negative thought patterns. They were gone. I've not even experienced them since. Like, they just almost, it was like I took the hat off. That was my grandmother's attitude to life, or whatever that was. So for me, that was like an instant shift. It was just so quiet that it was actually a bit eerie, like, whoa, like, wow, I'm just looking out the window, and that's all that's actually happening, is I'm looking out the window. Within a week, I was waving the white flag with my ex-partner, daughter's dad, and for me, it was resolved, like deeply resolved in the body. Like, there was no feeling ill or unill, like no bad or good feeling. It was just neutral and like, okay, I'm waving peace. It was gone. That whole triggering that was going through my energy field, and that kind of electricity, and was not there. It was dissolved, basically. And they saw the change in me, and it was so dramatic for the entire family that they had, or her stepmom and dad had aura transformations. My mum had an aura transformation. And then my daughter was 6 at the time. She was writing like little PowerPoints about how all her family had aura transformations and how it changed her life. And it was very beautiful and very sweet. She doesn't quite believe me when I tell her that now. And so for me, yeah, it was such a huge shift. And then I got home and I was decluttering my hippie hoarder's house and was like, how did I end up with this? It was almost like I was like a stranger in my own home. Like, why have I got all this crap? So I was just like decluttering, and I was elevating my existence in so many ways, like the quality of how I want to live and the food I eat and the things, everything was just elevated immediately. And then for me, it was so strong because I wasn't living my mission, dharma, my path. I wasn't in it. I was like working for other people. I wasn't doing what I was really supposed to, but I'd lost my way so much that I couldn't even find my own path anymore. And then I just landed in it, and it was like, wow, I know I have to do aura transformation. So that was easy for me because I just, knew it was that. And I just got everything in motion to train in it. And then within, weeks of training, I had a website, and then I was traveling, like I said. So just so much that happened in a short space of time, like all the pieces coming together. And it was like me embodying my spirit energy in my body meant that I was suddenly like an arrow on fire, with my feet firmly on the ground and matter conspiring with me to actually make things happen. And people could see me, people could hear me, and I was, all this burden that I'd been carrying, that you can see in the pictures, was shifted. I'm sure I'm missing bits, but hey ho. So hang on. This. So in an old aura, what are we dissolving? What is it that we're actually doing here? So traditionally, you know it as the 7 chakras. We call this gray yellow line the etheric layer. So that we call that it's the protective layer. That's the thing that gets frazzled and frayed and loses its potency over time for some people. And that can be damaged not only by drugs and alcohol, but by trauma, by shock, car accident, repeated shock and trauma. Some people are actually born with very little of this already intact, maybe because of what was going on with their mum, in their womb. So it can literally, any impact of any kind can actually frazzle this. And if you have high frequency children around you, they're trying to raise your frequency, and it's dissolving your etheric layer, which makes you tired and frazzled and feel less and less able to kind of be really resilient in their energy. We call this, I call this the universal plug socket. It's like little perforations, the astral body. And to me, the universal plug socket it's almost like so much can plug in to the old aura because it's been around so long. So the government knows how to plug in to our old aura, media, Hollywood, psychic, vampire type people, like it's like the narcissists know how to use this energy field for their advantage. It's almost, it's like we don't even know we're doing it. But I'm not saying that as people in Netflix, like how we're going to tap into the astral body today. They're probably not talking about it in that way. But this is how we function. All our emotions, our triggers, our feelings, our sense of self, our radiance, like it's all in this thing. But the astral body, when we dissolve it, gives you so much freedom from being plugged into. All the stuff that is used to finding you in this third dimension area no longer can find you in the crystal aura in the way that they can here. In a way, it's if we imagine we're in a lift, and the first, second, and third, they're on top of each other, like going up a building. So when you move your consciousness, your location of energy from the third dimension to the fourth to the fifth and beyond, anything that lives in the third dimension can't find you. And that's where most things that plug into the all-time aura will find you there, and then they can't find you. So all those entities that I was talking about, and all those things that were attacking me, and wherever I'd ended up without any protection and the darkness, as soon as I had an aura transformation, all that stopped instantly. And I've never had that again. I've never been attacked like in my sleep. I've never had those weird dark beings coming at me. I've never had to fight them off ever again. I just doesn't happen. And it was stopped immediately for me. And that's because I went up the lift, if you like. So those things where they lived, looking for food and looking for light beings and like, oh, she's tasty. I wasn't food anymore. I wasn't there. You could take a photo if anyone, if that helps, before I change the page. The lower this thing that looks like a halo, we call it the lower mental layer. And there's another image I'll show you in a bit, which explains how we're plugged in to the collective consciousness, and why people in the old aura have such a loud, busy head full of chatter. So sometimes people have a lot of chatter in their head, like I did, because there's like, you kind of become, the weaker your protection, the more susceptible you are to the things that could make life difficult for you. For me, it was ancestral noise. So when I had my aura transformation, I was cleared of that because it was plugged into me, if you like, through the astral body, the ancestral stuff. But some people have very loud, noisy heads because they're plugged into the collective. And then when you have the aura transformation, you're dissolving that kind of noise, like the collective in your head. And so then your head gets quiet. So lots of people get quieter heads, but some people, it doesn't do that, because I think that their habits of mind, like the neural pathways that they've created in their thinking and their ways of being and thinking, are so ingrained that they're going to have to do like loads of mindset work, or like new neural pathways to think in different ways, because they've just got such habits of thinking in that way. So there's lots of different ways that it can impact like the noise in your head. So, okay, here's a contentious thing, is the 7 chakra thing, because when you have an aura transformation, they merge. And when you look at indigo aura, which we will in a minute, you see they have 3 chakras, and then the crystal person has 1 chakra. So this can get everyone gets a bit emotional about this. And I've actually navigated it in a way that I know it's happening. I can feel when a client's aura's chakras emerging. Clients can feel it happening too. So it's definitely happening. But also, I've had, my best friend, the chiropractor, all these arguments about chakras, and he's like, I can see your chakras in your body. And that was the key. And then I went to a Joe Dispenza week-long retreat, because I know he plugs people in and checks their energy field and their chakras and all that. And the way he explains chakras, he doesn't even call them chakras, he calls them energy centers. And actually, if you map the spine, and then you map the nervous system, and then you map the hormone endocrine system, there are nodes of busyness in the inside the body, like physical nodes, they're called the plexi, I think they're called, and they are in line with what we call energy centers, endocrine points, nervous system points, and we call them energy centers in the body. So my upgrade on Annie Senov's work is that we still have our chakras in the body, energy centers in the body. Makes total sense. Like we still are, we have reproductive organs, we have a throat that communicates, we have a pineal gland in the body, we have a heart, so there's a logical reason to understand, yes, we have 7 chakras inside the body, but in the aura, it does change. And I remember before, so I'm like, you know, I've done loads of all this sort of work on myself after the fall. But I'm still like, I'm doing much better, but I'm in the toilet if I ever go out, fixing my chakras popping open every 2 minutes because they're all over the place or something. And like, I couldn't keep them, like anxiety would hit, or sudden, you know, I like lose the floor under my feet, or I get nervous, or I feel activated around the throat. Like it was a mess to kind of keep together, and I would be trying to hold them in somehow. And now I haven't even thought of or looked at chakras ever since. And if I go to a yoga class, for example, I might focus on the chakras in my body if they're talking about them. So I'm physically thinking about the physical endocrine nervous system. I still work with the energy centers with other people, for example. It's really not a big deal. What's happening though is that you're simplifying the energy system, so you don't have to be juggling 7 plates all the time. You don't have to be making sure one's balanced and then the other one doesn't go out of balance. It's just a lot easier to have one big fat heart chakra. Okay, so kind of, this is a sort of before and after picture. So before, lots more confusion in the energy field. Oh yeah, let me just, one more thing. So here in between, let's say in here, imagine all your triggers in your life, things that trigger, you know, like I said, lightning would go off every time I had to like engage with my ex-partner because of everything. That is almost cleared and dissolved, like a big mass of what you've built up gets to melt away, and then you get to start again. Obviously, if the wounds are really deep, then you're going to have to do some work, but because you're embodying your spirit energy in your body, it's like a lot easier to shine a light on it and to find the space. Because if you're carrying all this and then you're trying to find a space to find peace and forgiveness, it's actually harder to do. It's like a mountain to climb before you can even do the really deep work. And then also, just final point, your, like I said, your spirit energy, your higher self is sort of like on a thread somewhere above here. And if you have a meditation practice, or you're like, you know, you like think about your higher self, then you might have a kind of highway to speak to it or to communicate or commune with it. Whereas some people don't even know they have one. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of like where I was, or where people are in the old aura: repeating trauma, mental chatter, karma, indecisive, ancestral patterns, irritability, oversensitive, confusion. And then it goes into purpose, boundaries, joy, intuition, truth seeking, passion, clear vision, speaking from the heart, priorities, presence. And so when you have no protection, and then suddenly you have your spirit energy around your body or in your body, and a boundary, like a new skin, you have boundaries, like you have energetic boundaries, and you might not even know where they are until someone steps on them or you step on them or something. So it can be a little bit explosive at the beginning because you're suddenly like a boundary person. When someone crosses a boundary, like anger gets kicked in. So if you have friends that are in your boundaries or using you or whatever, after an aura transformation, you're very quick to start putting verbal, you know, you're like, you just crossed a boundary and I can feel it now. Whereas before you might have just been letting it happen. Okay. Oh yeah, I wanted to say, so these people are born before 87, so they're like now 35. These ones are now around 27 years old, you know, like the oldest ones are around 27, 30. These ones are around 18 and under. These are around 13 and under, just in case. So what's with the indigo aura? So this is where we used to go after an aura transformation. Now it kind of skips through, but an indigo child or person born with an indigo energy. Okay, I have to make another distinction here, is that there are people that were born in like the 60s or lived in the 60s and 70s that are like, I'm an indigo. And then in our world, no, you're not. You have the old aura, but you have indigo energy, which is a Jupiter energy gateway. Crystal children are Venus gateway. So the indigo Jupiter energy is very much, let's change the world, let's make the world a better place. Like Nelson Mandela is Jupiter energy too. And there's high frequency Jupiter energy, indigo energy. So like Nelson Mandela did it big. But then there's also lower frequency, you know, like indigo energy, which would be like, I don't know, let's go smash the bank during a protest or something. You know, it's like different tactics with different impact, and some of it's more loving than others. So a way of looking at it is that your aura, or what makes you include, there's streams of energy that make you have different likes, dislikes, missions, flavors of your personality and who you are and how you present and what kind of energy you seed into your environment. And indigo energy or Jupiter energy is one of those. But so I'm saying that people that were hippies in the 60s, 70s that have that kind of indigo vibe, they are carrying the seed or the mission of indigo Jupiter energy. They do not have the aura structure that the indigo children are born with. So there's like a distinction, but it does make sense if you learn those qualities and you can start picking it up in people. So an indigo structure, so they're born like 90, well, the transition ones are born sort of half old aura, half indigo, which is really uncomfortable. So if any of you are born like between 87 and 94, you will be you know, like it will feel like really good to be here right now to understand this. So they have 3 chakras. So it's just a simplified, again, it's just more simple energy structure, but their higher self is gathered around the body. And when you meet them, if they're very indigo-y, they're kind of like very bright, very creative, very, there is a I mean, I see energy. So they have like there is a violetness to their gaze of like charisma or something like that. They really want to, they really are like, I can't do that. It does not feel good to me. Like, I'm not going to school. I can't go to work in that way. I can't do that because their spirit energy is outside of the body, but it's attached to the body. Whereas in the old aura, it's like kind of attached to the aura somewhere. This is your spirit energy around the body in this massive way, is that if it bumps into things it doesn't like, it's going to be like, ugh, that feels sick, icky. Or I might react physically, like I might break out or get ill or just feel like I cannot do it, you know. They don't have very good sense of boundaries. It's almost like they're slightly boundaryless. They don't know when to go to bed on time, or like, I had a very hilarious time at a chiropractic conference, and I was with all these indigos, and I absolutely loved it. And I decided in a moment of fun to tell them some sort of adventure bedtime story before they went to bed. And a lot of it involved amazing missions and, you know, saving the world stuff, but I kept adding little things like, and don't forget your packed lunch. Like, don't forget to get enough sleep, just because they were killing themselves, because it was so, they all had to kind of help each other as a band of brothers to make sure that they kind of operated in the realms of their human bodies, you know, because otherwise they just don't know where to stop. So the indigo children, which are now young adults, they are all going to crystallize naturally as time goes on. They are going to become crystal humans. They are going to embody their spirit, and most of them anyway will embody their spirit energy. Some people might stay here just because it's part of their life purpose and their mission to stay in that. But we don't aura transform an indigo aura. We do aura transform, well, we used to call it aura adjustment. We're changing that slightly now. They need a full aura transformation type treatment because they need to kind of get out of the old aura, basically. But indigo adults, we do a balancing for them, which is almost like a follow-up session. So they only get a balancing. And it really helps them really understand their energy and what's going on. Crystal aura people, their spirit energy is in the body, and they have one big heart chakra. And I know from my first 6 months or so of my aura transformation, I could feel my heart chakra expanding, and it was like getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, like, and it was like stretching and tickling, like right out. I could feel it tickling. Like my arms are stretched out completely, like right on the edges of where my fingers are. I could feel my heart chakra fluttering and tickling and like getting bigger and bigger. And it was just like crazy experience, very interesting experience. So yeah, the spirit energy is in the body, you're fully crystallizing. They have one big heart chakra, and like this is where my daughter is, and she just her and her friends, they behave like how people behave, like they're seen as, so the old auras are like, want to break the old world. They're like, you know, break it, it's wrong. They want to point it out all the time. Crystal kids can't be bothered with that. They're just like, well, the old world's over there, I'm going to go create the new one over here. They're really not bothered about breaking old stuff. They're just like, that's just ridiculous. You know, like, what a waste of time. They're just going to go build the new world. And in a way, the indigo energies coming onto the planet for that long prepared the way for them to be able to start building the new. And the golden energy is the earth energy. So a way of thinking about it is the spirit energy. I was talking about crystallizing, awakening of the planet, the small spirit energy coming into human bodies. And then the earth energy is also part of that, because we're on earth. So if you think about it, it's a bit like the idea of bringing heaven on earth, or more spirit into matter, really making things happen here. So it is this merging of the earth energy and the spirit energy. And that's what this Venus earth energy collaboration is all about. Where are we now? So here is the quick picture. See here, the old auras are connected via the head, the mental layer, to the collective consciousness. Collective consciousness is like the mass of every thought of every human ever, kind of the cloud that we can plug into somehow or not. And in the old aura, it can get very busy in the head for people, because you're plugged in via the head. The mind is plugged in. The indigos are plugged into the collective consciousness via the body. That's why they feel yuck or yes to things happening in the collective. Like, I'm not going in there. Yes, I will go there. It feels wrong. I can't, or if I have to do it, I'm going to be sick. So it's physical. This is mental. This is physical. My camera thing is in the way. And here, the crystal human is, so fully crystallized people detach from the old aura. From the collective consciousness. So there you have, now it's not that you are no longer part of the collective, it's that it's no longer buzzing in your head or attacking your body. You are able to look at it over there and go, okay, collective consciousness, I can see what you're doing and what's going on. I can engage with it if I want to, but it's not in me. It's actually, I suppose another word would be sovereignty, becoming more sovereign, owning your edges, being in your own truth and your own energy, not in the collective one or people around you. Another thing there is having an aura transformation is like a huge reclaiming of your power from all timelines and all dimensions and all places. And the way I describe it to people is that, imagine this is all the energy, thought, you know, that first picture I showed with all the scribbles, like all of your thoughts, all of your energies, all of the things you've ever done and given, and all the stuff that's out there. It's all coming out of you, out there. And then here is all the people in your world and all the institutions and the places you've worked. And this is like out there, and this is you. And your energy and the world is like this, like spaghetti all together. And then you have an aura transformation, the treatment itself, the 4-hour thing. And it's like a big separation of your energy and the outside energies. So you're reclaiming your power, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your drive, everything is, you're pulling it into your body. And then at the same time, you're making space from the collective, the ancestral, the people around you, and all that kind of thing. And over the next 9 months to a year and a half or so, you're going to become separate from all of that, so that you're not inside all of this noise. You're actually like become sovereign from it. Another part of the crystallization process, or what's really happening when you have an aura transformation, is that a lot of people are spread out over different timelines and different dimensions and different frequencies. So your ego and your mind is like, I really want to be in the 56th dimension, I'm going to ascend faster than everyone else. And then your parents live in the 2nd dimension, and your partner is in the 3rd, and then all your friends are in the 4th. And so you're like kind of drawn out over all these dimensions. And in an aura transformation, we're gathering you up into the right dimension for you. And we're kind of we put you in the 5th, if you like, and then you have to find your way there. So we're gathering you, we're putting you in your own power, in your own energy, in your own spirit, in your own platform of consciousness, where your truth is, where your mission is, where your alignment is, and your path is, so you can actually follow it. And when we crystallize, so also you have been all the things your ancestors have been, all the things where the lineage of your consciousness and where that's been, or past lives, or different timelines you've been in. You've been panther, and you've been butterfly, and you've been, you know, like a priest, and you've been a this and a that. You've been all these different things that make you who you are. You've been on some other planets probably. And that's spread out. And I know for me, my experience of walking around when I said things are getting a bit scary and weird is that I would just slip in and out of different timelines. And I'd be like 1 minute in a medieval village and then suddenly back in Lancaster again. And then, you know, like, oh, it was getting very swishy, and like I was flipping between all these different things I'd been, and it was too much. And having an aura transformation takes almost all of the power or focus of energy. Instead of being spread out in lots of places, it brings all of them into this one place. And it doesn't mean that you no longer are all those things. It means, this is where it can be hard to explain, but this is for the geeky ones, is that everything you've ever been becomes the little crystalline crystal in the crystal aura. So you're thousands and thousands of everything you've been. It's like the macrocosm of who you are becomes one of the microcosms in the macrocosm. I don't know. So instead of me being split between all the different things I've been, I am all those things, but in one point. So that's why there is so much crystal clarity and so much more power in one place, in one dimension of where you are, rather than it being spread in lots of different things. But you don't have to worry about that if you're not into thinking about things in that way. I think we're doing okay for time. So hang on, let's see where we are here. Okay, so it's just here is very simply saying that people that are in the new time auras. So let's say you have a teenager and you become an aura transformed crystal person, then you are in the house with them, and it's like an equal, you know, like your dimensions of being, you're in the same sort of frequency, and it kind of translates. There's a lot less stuff in the way, you know, there's not all this lightning bolts and ancestral plugins and blah. So and you're both around the same size. It just makes communication a lot clearer and a lot easier. And people, we gather once a month as Aura Transform people online. I have a group called Crystal Gathering, and it's always lovely when you're in a room full of those people, or in the courses actually, when you're all Aura Transformed. There's a clarity and clearness and crispness in the air, and things is less. You know how when spiritual people get together at courses, there's always one or two that are having a bit of a thing. It's very rare that actually happens. It does on occasion, but it's different. It's like almost like okay for everyone to be in their own truth and be in their own thing. Whereas if you imagine here you have someone in the old aura, and you're in a relationship or in a friendship or in a house or something with someone in the new time energies, it's almost like this person, the old aura, won't be able to see like this much of that person and this much, you know, like if they only see this much of the world and you live in this much of the world. I mean, this is very typical of relate to people in relationships that have different interests. You know, it's not like completely like rocket science. I'm just saying that when you have people in the same new time energies, it's easier to communicate and to understand each other and see each other. But if you say, lots of people, for example, like the woman tends to have the aura transformation, and then she wants a husband to have the aura transformation, it's still very possible to have your, you know, love relationship between you know, in the old aura and the new aura, it doesn't really matter. If there's love is there, and the spirit, if it's spirit to spirit and it's just a beautiful thing, it's going to stay that way. But if it's not part of your truth and it isn't aligned, then maybe you suddenly have the energy and power to do what you have to do to step into your truth. So with the aura transformation, this just basically says that traditional therapies might take you like 20 years to do amount of work, and having an aura transformation is the same amount of work. It's almost like saying you cannot cheat your lessons and your karma. We're not erasing everything that you were supposed to learn. We're just making it a lot easier for you to get there. So you're still going to learn the same amount, but in a short space of time, is what it's saying. Because we're dissolving a lot of stuff in your old aura, but the crux of it and the lessons and the karma bits, you're still going to have to learn them. So this is just a summary. So we kind of get the first few. So your subconscious becomes conscious. So we have a thing basically in the first few months is a bit like a detox, emotional detox. Imagine like all your spirit energy is coming into the body. It's going to displace anything that is not your truth and is not your spirit. And you're going to have to kind of look at that stuff coming up. And instead of giving your power away and looking up to gurus and masters, you become your own guru. You know, you listen to your spirit energy, your higher self. You can hear it better. Okay, let's see. Quick benefits. I pretty much probably talked about all these. Daily clarity, protection, and overview of your life. Yes, definitely. Intuition and drive starts to cooperate, resulting in more energy. Yes. Ability to prioritize and focus on what you choose to be involved with. It's really hard not to be if it's the right thing for you. And someone that recently aura transformed said she couldn't believe, like, she's really struggled to have any energy to do anything like housework or exercise or work or whatever. And she's been unstoppable since having her aura transformation. So that's been amazing to hear. And I really think that when your spirit has got something it wants to do, but you've been unable to do it, then it is unstoppable. But that's not everyone's experience, because everyone's here for doing something different. And some people aren't here to do anything. They're here to be an energy or to spread a frequency in them being like as content and free as possible. So you become less troubled by challenges coming from your surroundings. I mean, for me, the test was soon after my aura transformation. It was Christmas. And I couldn't believe the difference of like the less arguments, less triggering, just being able to sit and kind of helicopter out a little bit and just be like, oh, look at them all doing that thing, those things they do, rather than being inside it and triggered and affronted. So it was like a different experience. Increased inner joy. Well, it's just easier to reach peace. Expanded awareness and discernment of others' agendas. You can definitely feel and see what's going on more clearly when you're clearer. Easier openness with others without being on guard. You're just more comfortable being yourself and in your own energy. You convey a more clear feeling for your personal standpoint, as in, I have to translate from the Danish translation, basically. You're able to express your point of view easier. Improved ability to enjoy living in the present. Whoops. I can't. Rapidly manifest the reality you always wish for. So basically, it's instant karma. You know, you think something, it starts happening. So it's kind of careful what you wish for and think about, really. So during a treatment, we have the healing phase is the first part of a treatment. So for the first hour and 20 minutes or so, we're really going through basically the old aura. We're kind of, several things are happening. We're kind of pumping the crystal energy through, it's coming through into the body, and it lifts anything that really needs to be addressed or healed or looked at. And it could be chakra stuff, it could be ancestral stuff, it could be trauma stuff. But basically a lot of stuff's coming up to be either reclaimed or pushed away. Like what I was saying about, you know, separating out you and the world. There's a lot of that going on in that point. And then we get to a point where you're full with the crystal energy, and we dissolve the old aura. And that means dissolving the etheric, the astral, the lower mental layer. And it's very quick. It's often like blowing a leaf off a table, but sometimes, you know, we just stay with it a bit longer because it feels very nice to have no more all of that. It's like a freeing feeling. And in that point, the energy tempo completely changes in the body, and it's completely different for every single person, which is an absolute privilege to be part of that with the people, you know, other people. Each person has a unique frequency, and their spirit energy is like a fingerprint, their own fingerprint in energetic signature in the world. So every single energy that comes in at that point, when the spirit energy there's no more barrier when we dissolve the old aura between you and your spirit, and then it comes flooding in and around and through the body, and that's when you feel this different energy, and everyone's is different, and it's beautiful. And then we're kind of letting you expand. That's what expanding your consciousness, expanding with your own spirit energy. And then we kind of look more forward, like, where are you going? Why are we doing it? What's the next steps for you? And there's a sort of absorbing of more of your mission, your gifts, you're expanding into, you're kind of just, yeah, expanding, unfolding. And then at the very end, we integrate the new aura, and then you're off. And then you come back for the balancing session. So you have a balancing session as part 2 of your initial aura transformation, but you can have them again later down the line. And it's, I guess you could see it as like a service or MOT, you know, like checking your car or your system out once a year at least. But I know that I could feel like so much was happening in me so fast that I had several more in that first year, like I think 3, 4 or something. And then if I can have one, if I see someone, because I don't know many, you know, there's not many people around me that can do aura transformation. So when I do see someone that can, I'm like, let's do a swap, because it is such a nice experience. So what happens in the balancing? So there's a whole other dimension to all of this, is that after an aura transformation, the crystal energy is balanced in the elements. So as I said at the very beginning, it balance on all levels, and it's constantly looking for balance in the fire, earth, water, air. So your body, your crystal aura, is walking around constantly making sure, or trying to find a balance in your elements. And if you're a leading fire person or earth person or air person, then it might be a bumpy ride whilst your body finds balance on all levels over the next couple of years as you're crystallizing. So the balancing session does focus in part on, you know, how are you doing in your new aura, and how you know, yeah, are you settling in okay? And we can also see what you normally do. Are you trying to get out of the body? Are you trying to leave? Are you what's happening to how you, because it's suddenly you can't get out. You can't leave. So your aura might start trying to float up. So we're making sure it's back, balancing it out again. And then we're going help. Well, the way we do it now is that we really help people understand their elements so that they can be empowered to work on them themselves. So that's something I'm very proud to have brought into the new way we teach aura transformation, is that there's a lot more focus on empowering people to understand their crystallization process and their elements. So we go through, like, for example, fire would be, you know, your passion, your drive. I don't think we have time to go into this too deeply, but basically we take time to understand our elements and how we lead with which ones, and then find ways that you can create more balance in your outside life and inside life as you crystallize. We also look at the masculine and feminine energies within, so the divine union within. And there's a whole process there as well about a very beautiful energetic activation that happens within the balancing, and with your aura transformation, of this sort of union of the energies within you. And it does feel very tangibly different when you get there. So the crystallization process I've already spoke to you about is very much about this process of integrating your spirit energy, finding this balance in your elements and masculine and feminine, and it takes time. And first you're sort of balancing internally, and eventually it's externally. And it's very different when we do a balancing on someone that's just had an aura transformation, and when we're balancing someone that has had their aura transformation 8 years ago. The energy feels different, and we're going to look at the elements in a different way. But that's more for practitioner stuff. Oops. I don't know if there's any more. Is there any more? Okay, so this has changed actually, but this used to be, well, everyone had to buy the book, which was actually quite hard to do, because you're like, you can't have one until you bought this book, and you've got to read it. And actually now we have a PDF, like a booklet, that we can send you for free, which is the only prerequisite now to having an aura transformation. And it is really so that you can sit in your own energy and feel into it, because it isn't for everyone. It isn't for people that are dependent on drugs and alcohol, or, smoke weed every day. It's not for people that are very vulnerable. It's not for people that are, just had a psychotic episode or really clinically depressed. It's not for people that can't sort of sort life out to get the money together to pay for an aura transformation. If people aren't able to be balanced in their earth element enough, foundations in their life enough to then have an aura transformation, it's going to be too much of a leap in consciousness and in frequency. So it really is about making sure people are ready and in a position enough to kind of handle a transformation like that. I always ask if people have the tools to deal with an emotional detox. Like, do you have some practices or some tools that you would use to work with your own energy? Like maybe you have a therapist already, or maybe you have a meditation practice, or maybe you have tools and kinesiology and reflexology and friends that do that stuff. I really want, for myself as a practitioner, I want to make sure people can have the basics of looking after themselves. So someone on antidepressants might not be able to deal with their emotions and energies enough to be able to deal with what comes up during the first few months of an aura transformation. The first few months of an aura transformation are amazing, and you're like, oh my God, like everything's clearer for some people. Some people sleep a lot more suddenly for a few weeks. Some people can't stop clearing the house and building the website and doing all the things they haven't done for years. It's very different for everyone. There tends to be this kind of period of like, wow, this is amazing, and then like a bit of a dip, and that's you having to like excavating all the stuff that needs to clear. So in a way, all your spirit energy is coming in, which is your truth, your clarity, your innocence, your spirit. It's your spirit. It's very simple. And then anything that isn't that you've hoarded in your energy system or emotional system is going to lift up, and you're going to see it, and you can't hide it. Many people say you can't hide when you've had an aura transformation. There's no hiding from yourself. The mask's off, and you have to just deal with what's come up. But it's coming up for a final showdown. So another big piece of that is that you're aware, like, okay, I'm aware that, well, you just know that this is stuff you're going to have to deal with, and it's going to go then. Once you've done it, it's kind of gone. I obsessed about the tools that they taught me after my aura transformation, where I really, I just did everything that my aura mediator told me to do, and I just went for it. So I feel like I never dwell in my past at all. Like it's all not even relevant anymore, but I had to go through that process first. I think that is everything. So I think we can go into question. Let me just check, because I probably, oh yes, I do teach the aura mediator courses. So if you wanted to train, you would have to have an aura transformation first and go through a few months minimum of experiencing that and crystallizing and understanding it for yourself. And then you can apply for an aura mediator course. It's an incredible course. It's very hands-on. You'll aura transform 3 people at least during the course in pairs. It's a group, effort. Yeah, you really up your skill. It's not only a huge upgrade in your own expansion, consciousness, and skill, and skill as a practitioner. There's lots of books about aura transformation, and about after aura transformation. Like this is that was the one you would have to read before an AT. You can still read it, but now there's the free, shorter version online, which I'll send in an email with the replay of this. Then there's other books like The Little Energy Guide and Get Your Power Back Now are really good they were written for young adults, but they're also for parents, and they're good for anyone, about the basics of working with your elements and about boundaries and not giving your energy away and sorting your energy, and like kind of tools about working with the aura transformation energy. The Crystal Human Part 1 and Part 2 is all about the crystallization process, and it's lots of testimonials. And if you really want to geek out on all the energy stuff, this is her book, The Golden Earth, which goes into reading a personality profiling via the planet energies. So being able to look at someone and go like, oh, they have a lot of Neptune energy and Indigo energy and Jupiter energy and Earth energy and Gold and Venus energy. So like, it's our way of kind of personality profiling to help work with our clients. So there's a few testimonials. I have so many of these on my website. I don't really use much anymore. I've got a new one coming one day somewhere, but I have about 30 testimonials like this. So Jane, I had felt like a part of me was missing, as if I was incomplete in some way. I'd always sensed that I'd had a higher purpose, yet something like an invisible barrier had held me back. I'm happier and more content than I've ever been. I feel like I've grown into myself and my skin fits at last. I've connected with my creative self and I'm acutely tuned to my instincts, which has resulted in me connecting with others at a much deeper level. I'm present totally, and I can sense what is going on for someone that they haven't even shared with me. Cindy says, to say I feel connected is an understatement. I feel that I simply am. I used to meditate for up to 2 hours at a time, and now I can reach the feeling of connectedness almost instantly, so no need for long sessions. I feel as if I'm looking at everything with new eyes. I could concur. I actually can't read the other ones because they're underneath a thing. Let me see if I can, I can move that. Okay. Nancy, I feel so light and glowing. My vibration has lifted so much and everything is easier with my kids. Wow. The love is flowing. Even being around my extended family has become way less triggering. Michael, AuraTransformation had an immediate effect on expanding my consciousness. Everything seemed more close up yet transparent. Long term, I'm experiencing constant synchronicities. There is no turning back. So yeah, I mean, that's just like a very short picking out a few when there's a lot more people saying similar and also other interesting things about their journeys. So I do the monthly crystal gatherings last Tuesday of every month, and we kind of gather and we share like what we're experiencing and what's going on in the world and life around us, so we can kind of get an idea of what's happening in the field. And then I lead us through what I call a group energy balancing. So basically I'm signposting to you how to move energy in your aura or body, and so you're learning how to do that for yourself, but the result is that you end up feeling really balanced, clear, and motivated to carry on till the next month. And it's like a reminder of like, oh, you have a crystal aura and it works in these ways and it can help you. So some people aren't ready for an aura transformation, and I do have kinesiology work that I do with people to get them ready, and we can have statements such as, I am ready for an aura transformation. If your body says no, we can find out what is needed and in what way before you can go for it. And it's also another way, if you're, say, you just know there's things you'd like to do before you have an aura transformation, this is another way of working. And I have lots of online courses, like I mentioned at the beginning. So there's other ways of working with me if you're not sure first, so we can check what's happening. I have a YouTube channel with, I think it's called Sarah Jennings Dare to Be, and it's got so many playlists of all my works, including a playlist on aura transformation. And that's it. Yay. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm very happy to take questions. Okay, so I'm just reading one here. If we have an indigo aura, you mentioned we don't need an aura transformation, we can do balancing. Is the balancing the same as one that gets done after aura transformation? Yes, it is the same. So when you have an indigo aura, so you would have like maybe the first time a long balancing, because there's a lot to communicate about how to work with your energy and why what's happened to you has happened, and teach you some tools that will empower you going forward. But it really depends on the person. Some people are like really crystallizing in their indigo energy. So we will look at the elements in the body, whereas before that we would look at, so with someone that's just had an aura transformation, we look at the elements in their aura first, and then eventually years down the line we start looking at it in the body, which is a bit technical, but basically yes, it's the same thing. Okay, so what does the practitioner actually do to dissolve and transform the old aura? Do they bring in the energy, and if so, from where? Okay, so what happens when you become an aura mediator? So during the practitioner training, the first thing that happens is that the person has a 4-hour sort of like another practitioner aura transformation, where they activate the source of the crystal energy as part of that. And in that way, the aura of the practitioner becomes the blueprint of the new aura, of the crystal aura. So I feel a very strong sense of responsibility having the instructor aura that then activates all the practitioner aura. So I've not touched any drugs whatsoever, like in the last 9 years since I fell down the stairs. I haven't touched a thing because I feel such a massive responsibility in having the kind of architecture and seeding it in for others. So in an aura transformation, in a way, is an activation, like a mirroring or something of the structure. And so when we are having an aura transformation, we are sort of activating the source, and the crystal energy is running through and filling the client's body with crystal energy, Venus energy. And people can feel that, like tickling up the legs, and that fills the body and helps. It's like a healing energy. People that have injuries, like scar tissue, they can feel it kind of knitting sometimes. They're like, ooh, I can really feel an old injury kind of healing. And then there is sets of intentions, like the practitioner has to hold the space of like, we're doing this for this much time, and now we're going to do this bit when it's the right time. So we're kind of controlling isn't the right word, but holding space to make sure things don't run away, you know, like run away with us. So when it comes to dissolving the old aura, we're usually holding off to try and not let that happen too fast, because the old aura is so ready to go. If any part of you is like interested or can feel this crystal energy, it's like, you know, like it's almost ready to, it's almost like hanging off by a thread. Most people that are super attracted to aura transformation don't really have an old aura left. They literally, it's like hanging by a thread, or not even at all. They're completely without protection, which is partly why this is like a thing, you know, this is available, because the old aura has just not been up to scratch. I hope that helps explain it. It's quite hard to explain. So the aura structure, at the end of a session, we integrate the new aura. Dissolving the old aura is the easiest bit. And then at the end, integrating the new aura, it just feels like a, some people feel it like a being wrapped around, like a density comes around. Some people feel it like an extra skin. Some people just feel like, one lady said it was like taking off a shaggy, shredded old coat, and by the end of it having some starry, multicolored, like much denser coat on. That's not very technical answer. Would my granddaughter born in 2016 be a crystal child? I'm looking at my dates because I'm not a numbers person. No, she would be crystal golden child. So the way we've described them, I mean, Annie was describing them before they were here, so I don't know how she did that, but it's almost like they can run before they can walk. And so yes, I mean, it's almost like they have a lot of, so the golden energy of the earth is very much, so if we only had no crystal energy on earth and only golden energy, which has happened before, it's almost like everyone would be super hedonistic and just like the Romans, you know, like eat, puke and eat again, and then party, and then sex and rock and roll, and like it's almost like hedonism and bounty and abundance. And then the crystal energy brings a lot of structure and balance and love. It's called a love intelligent balanced energy. And then the golden energy comes through that. So it's almost like you can really enjoy life from a foundation and a structure, which is love intelligent. And if you think back to when I was talking about the hippies in the 70s, it was all like free love without boundaries. It wasn't love intelligent. It was like love abundant somehow, but without the boundaries. So crystal golden people. So you've integrated the crystal energy, and it's like this love intelligence is helping you lead your life in a way. And then this beautiful being able to enjoy life kind of starts happening. So you can have adults in the old aura with a lot of golden energy, for example, as well. Would you agree that AT is like soul retrieval when it reclaims the individual power and domain? Yes, in the first part of an aura transformation, so the healing phase, can be likened to a chakra alignment and a soul retrieval, like we're bringing back parts, retrieving pieces, power retrieval, all that kind of thing is happening. So yes, it is. We could compare those beginning bits of an aura transformation to those practices, but then afterwards it sort of veers off into its own modality, if you like. So there is a distinction to be made. Like this is hopefully okay. So the old aura being in the third dimension. So a lot of practitioners live in that dimension, in the old aura, and practice energy healing that is wonderful for the old aura, including Reiki and other practices. And that's brilliant. We need people that heal old auras because they're a mess and they need help. But when you become a practitioner of aura transformation, or you have an aura transformation, you're no longer working in third dimensional ways. You're working in fourth to fifth and higher dimensional ways. It's not good or bad or worse or better or anything like that. It's just a different place where the energies work slightly differently and feel different. Like for me to have Reiki feels just horrible. Like if I'm going for a massage, I have to say, please don't do that, because it feels like being plugged into an old system, and it feels, even thinking about it makes me feel like, blah. So people, I don't know if anyone's asked this, but I know it will come up at some point. And so that's another question I ask people is like, do you make a living from Reiki or something like that? Because if you do, then this might not be like something you wouldn't be able to access the way that they do the Reiki thing. I can't even remember how it is now, but it's just not the same. So I know a lot of people that are ready to step into the next thing. So that's great. There's plenty of people that don't actually really use Reiki. They just say they do. So they're quite happy about moving on to the next thing. And some people, they just never liked it anyway. So that's okay. But if it's something you're really attached to, then maybe this isn't for you. We need people that are working in that dimension. That's fine. So it's just really reading that PDF is very helpful to really figure out, like, is this right for me? Because it's such an individual choice. And if anyone that's like, I wish my partner would do it, or my husband or my friend or whatever, let them decide for them from there. Because this is something that, you know, embodying your spirit energy and dissolving your old aura is a lifelong thing. It's a permanent expansion of your consciousness and dissolving of part of you in a way, like the old sense of self. So how I see the old aura, that what I said was 26,000 years old, or what we call the old soul aura. We call it the soul aura, and then the spirit is something else. And in a way that is like your old 26,000-year-old consciousness map of life wrapped around you, and we're dissolving that. And some people want to stay there, so we may as well leave them, you know, if they want to be there. So it has to be a very individual choice, an educated choice, and that's why there's that little booklet to read, just to, you can go through it in your own time and energy. Okay, how would we know if we're crystallizing from the indigo aura? Are there any clear signs or symptoms? How would I get a balancing in the USA? Would I have to come to Europe? There are a few practitioners. So how to find your aura mediator? So if you're not near me, or you don't really, you want to find your own aura mediator where you are, then we have a website. It's not been updated for a while, so things might be a bit different. Some people might be on it that aren't practicing anymore. I don't know. But it's AuraTransformation.com. It's not my website, it's like the whole website. And you can look up all the countries. It's in like so many countries. It's like Estonia, South Africa, Japan, America, Germany, Austria, France, blah, blah, blah. It goes on. So just find your country, find people. If you want to know, like, I'm an instructor, so I do know the field. And if you want to ask me, like, what do you think, would this work for me? And you want my opinion or help with that, just ask me and I can help you find someone active, or that maybe I train myself. And how do you know? So the way to know really when you're crystallized, if I'm assuming you're an indigo adult and you're wondering if you're moving into crystallization, it would be really kind of like your attitude to life. An indigo person is like quite reactive physically to like, I like this, I don't like this, I can't do that, I won't do that, or like, I hate that, or you'd never catch me doing that. Or a crystal person is just like, can't be bothered fighting with the environment or the world as it is. I'm going to go tinker away and build my creative outlet thing here. It's like a different, in a way that indigos are like at loggerheads with the world, and the crystals are in their own bubble doing their own thing, quite happy about it. So it's like a different attitude to life. I mean, that's a very basic way of looking at it. And I guess another way of looking at it is you become more balanced and more love intelligent human, balance in your body, looking after yourself, good boundaries, making things happen. Oh, thank you very much. I'm interested in aura transformation. I was born 93. Okay, so transition child, but I could potentially have a crystal aura that I may need a balance session. I'm usually very easy on transitioning, changes, and adapting to anything or anybody. How can I exactly know what I will need? So the best thing to do is set up a call with me, and then just by talking to each other, we'll start figuring out quite quickly. I would say that it's very unlikely that you have a crystal aura now, but we can always talk, and then I'd tell you honestly if that is the case, and then you'd maybe just want a balancing. But pretty sure that it is very hard to do it all by yourself. I mean, I guess that's where there's a bit of contention, like that you could. So there's a lot of people that are like, I do so much spiritual work that I'm already there. But actually they maybe have a lot of crystal energy. Remember I said that you can have a kind of purpose or mission or frequency that comes from you, which is crystal. Like I had a lot of Venus energy and I had a lot of indigo energy, but I still had the old aura. So you're born in between old aura and indigo aura, which we call the transition kids, and they are, well, then adults now, but for them it's so powerful to have an aura transformation, because in a way they are bridging the old and the new. So you maybe have, say, loads of your spirit energy around your body, and you're like, whoo, and you really know your mission and you're in your fire. But you still have like the plugins of the ancestral thing, or you still maybe have not enough protection, or like something going on from the old aura that's just still like kind of dragging you back in any way. So the easiest way is a practitioner talking with you and we figure it out. And then sometimes with those ones that transition people, you don't know until you put your hands on. You can't tell, like, but it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, a balancing, whether you're a crystal person or a transition or an old aura, is still a very beautiful, powerful experience. So me, like way down the line, when I have a balancing from a colleague, I use it in a kind of litmus paper of like which path, I've got lots of paths, and like which way should I go, and all my elements in alignment with that particular mission, or is my body just saying no, don't do that? Or I've used it to heal a lot of trauma and shock in the body, and it really helps you go quite deep and really lift that, because you're not immune to the humanity and life and pandemics and relationships and stuff. What is the process? So sounds like an initial call, then session and balancing. How much does it cost? Is it all in person? So, well, the call doesn't have to be. So The pricing depends on like if you need a full one or a little one or balancing. And I'm more expensive than aura mediators because I've gone through maybe 4 or 5 years more training. And I also want to encourage people to go to aura mediators as well. But for me, having a full aura transformation is 425. That's the 4-hour session in 2 parts, plus an initial call where we figure times and things out and make sure it's right for you. Plus, after I do a folder where you get loads of information and help and aftercare, plus you get a free crystal gathering call, like part of that, where you can plug in, listen to a full balancing energy sequence so that you can do it yourself. And you get a first crystal gathering call free as a gift. So you can join us live for a call. So it kind of, it's like a pretty good deal for all of that. And the thing is that you're not actually you're paying a practitioner to do that, but actually the changes are priceless and they just keep going and giving over time. Practitioner, other aura mediators in the UK charge 350, I think is where people are at, depending on where you are. It's something worth saving up for. It's a one-time thing. Oh, good. That's nice to know. I haven't changed my prices since I lived in Exeter, which is like 2018 or something. I won't put them up just yet. I thought I'd let them, everyone's money. I thought I'd just leave it where it is. Yeah, so the steps are, everything's in person. So the question that people ask is, can you do it remotely? No. 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 You need someone to anchor like the seriousness of dissolving your aura structure and integrating a new one. You want that force or anchor to be holding you, and then that activation between the person that's got the new structure that activates it. You need that in person. Very important. But I do teach, all my crystal gatherings are online, and we do like balancing sequences and teaching you like what we've already done, so you can do it for yourself, so you can work with your own energy. So if you live somewhere else, so like I said before, I've traveled like Taiwan or like Australia, Canada, is if you are somewhere far away and you want me to come, then we can work together, and I maybe do a couple of talks for people where you are, and then we get a group of people. It depends how far I have to go and how long I'm going to be away, because they're 4 hours per person. That adds up. So say I do 20 people, that's probably at least 10 days of lots of work. And so it's like I need help with someone on the ground to help me build that there, but I can do a couple of talks when I'm there. And then I just aura transform like a machine for days, basically. And it's fine because and you don't get tired. People always say, oh, you must get tired, but it's just, you're just so alive and clear. And it's more like maybe you struggle to go to sleep because you're just like, bing. It's very beautiful and helpful energy to work with. Yeah, so the process, if you're interested, is finding out, like knowing if this is the right for you. So you have to read that PDF booklet that I'll put in the email with the replay. So read that. That will tell you, yes, I want to do this. No, I'm not ready, kind of thing. If you want to work with me in I have a few online courses, as some of you in this room have done them. One of them is called Centered. And it's like a 4-part video series, which really teaches you the basics of balancing, not to do with aura transformation. It's actually kinesiology tools and other tools to really feel centered in your body. So like you know, kind of foundations and being grounded and in your body and functioning. So if you want kind of help with that sort of thing, I have tools that I can share with you. I've got other courses that are not this, if you're interested in working with me and you're attracted to that, but you're not sure about aura transformation. So there's options, so you can talk to me about them. There's one-to-one work we can do as well. Sometimes people they've been given antidepressants, but they don't really know why they're on them anymore, and they've reduced it down to nothing, and they know they're going to come off them, and then they're like, please, can you do an aura transformation? And I have to say no, because you need at least 6 months off of them. And I made the mistake once really early on in my journey. Someone in South Africa begged me. She said she was ready, she was able to handle it, and it wasn't pleasant for her at all afterwards. And we both regretted it in the sense, not forever, but that first 6 months was just so, like, all this stuff she hadn't processed really because of the antidepressants. So you need to be completely clear of them. So there's other ways of working, maybe, or knowing that aura transformation is like a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, it's like something to look forward to. It's something, you know, that you can use as a sort of motivating force to get ready to do that. Okay. When is the next aura mediator training? What's the cost for that and the length of the training? So the next aura mediator training that I'm going to do, I'm hoping, is spring, and it's going to be the first one since just before the pandemic. So I'm very excited about that. And so, because it's quite a specialized thing, we have to get enough people together. So I'm going to start talking, I'm starting to talk about it right now. And I'm thinking, well, hopefully like March, April sounds good to me. And it is about a week. So the first, for me, it's about a week, where the first few days, every single person on the course is going to have a 3 to 4 hour aura mediator activation personal session. And so that takes time. So you have to come a few days before, really, so that everyone gets a chance to do that, and you settle into that energy. And then you arrive on the course, and it's usually, I'm trying to remember now, God, it's been a while. It's just 5 days, I think, in total. And you're going to have we have a lot of clients coming in and out of the course, and you're going to learn how to do that. And we discuss, and you're learning theory. It's pretty intense. And then there's a holding for 2 months after the course, where we have a few calls. And when you do your first few aura transformations, like, I'm there in a way, like not on Zoom or anything, but I know that you're doing one, and then we talk about them. And so there's a kind of holding going on. And then every 2 years, we expect everybody and certainly people that trained a long time ago now, we're trying very hard to equalize, because there's been so many instructors and different teachers. We're trying to get everyone on the same level, and everyone every 2 years, like, kind of freshened up and activated and cleared for themselves, so that they're yeah, so it's like really, I think, robust training. Anything else? Oh, the cost. So it hasn't changed. So I guess it'll probably stay around the same this time. It's 2,800 from what I remember in pounds. But I might have to double check, but it's something like that. And then the idea is that within the first 10 people you aura transform, you've made more than what you spent back. That's sort of like how we see it. And so you have to have an aura transformation first. And it is they say minimum 2 months, but I recommend more longer, really. So you really get your own process, you know, and you know what you're playing with, and you can explain it to people better. And then there's a bunch of books. There's quite a few books to read beforehand as well. Like, most of Annie's books have to be read before you arrive. Yeah. So and then also you have an interview to make sure you're ready and it's right for you as well. But it's an amazing way to work with people. I see every person as a living library and a universe. All their energies are there, and it's just an incredible thing to be working with. The crystal energy is such a beautiful energy. And what I love so much about offering aura transformation is it's not just like an energy healing session and you're putting plasters on it feels good for a bit. You're actually giving something like there's a beginning and a middle and an end. It's like you're getting a new aura structure. There's a thing that's happening, and I actually really like that kind of structure. And there is you're selling something that you can actually describe, and everyone experiences the effects differently. But yeah, there's something really nice about that. Like, it's not open-ended as such. And yeah, so some people it's worth saving up for if that's what you have to do. And it's also worth traveling for. I mean, over the years, in the last year, this is me really just starting to talk about it in my local community. I didn't know anyone during the pandemic here, so it's been a bit weird. So I'm just starting to talk about it now. But so during the last year, I've had people fly from Jersey, Dubai, Sweden. So I've had people drive all up the country, and then they go to Edinburgh and they rent an Airbnb or something, or a hotel room, and I come to them and we do it there. And so I've had people fly from China before to have an aura transformation. It's been quite an incredible journey. Because I can't go to China and do it. It's frowned upon. Very good. Good questions. Any last questions? Don't be shy if you're like, oh, should I ask that? Okay. So I will write a email with this replay, and thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and I think I'm talking to you tomorrow, so talk to you then. Yeah, you can just respond to that email. We can set up a chat if you want to, but I would insist on if you could read the PDF thing first. Or, I mean, I know I've talked about most of it today, but at least, read through most of it or scan it or something before we talk, so that you're coming from a place of having understood, what you need to, so that we can have a conversation from that level, really. Okay. Okay, cool. Nice one. Thank you, everybody. So Lulu's just mentioning the diamond energy. So because it's not maybe right place to talk about it really now, but basically we don't think that we should focus on it at all, because it's actually our bodies are not ready to absorb that next level of energy. Like, we are still learning just to have our physical bodies have to support spirit energy and the crystal energy, and that takes a lot of energy. That's why it takes like a year to 2 years or something to fully embody all of that energy, because your body, like, that's why my face and cells look different, because my body's slowly learning to absorb more of that energy in that way. Physically, my physical body changed. And then the diamond energy is it's like too high a frequency for where the physical body is. And then if you look at the whole of humanity, like as a collective, we're still en masse around third dimension, just fourth a little bit. So if you start being like, oh, I'm a diamond energy person, and you probably destabilize your own structures, but you're just too far away from everyone, it doesn't really make sense. So our take on it is just don't even think or focus on it. And yeah, very enlightening and informative. Yay. Thank you. Thank you. Yay. Is there any restrictions after an OT? Restrictions, like anything negative? I guess there's a few things you could see it as. So back when I was in my old aura and it was populated with all these beasties and shamanic animals and like all this magic and weird dimensions. I'm shifting timelines. It was all very exciting, slightly scary and weird, but you know, quite cool. I have none of that. And I'm just super focused, grounded, and get on with my stuff. And it's very peaceful and quiet. So there was a bit of mourning of like, oh, it's a bit less exciting, but actually it's a relief not to be slipping in and out of myself constantly. And, you know, like this sort of, it's like the old aura when it's like that, it's almost keeping you distracted from making things happen. It's all very kaleidoscopic and woo. So yeah, for me, I can see where it's like, oh, and then I guess as well, but I've stopped saying it now, but the suggestion would be, you know, maybe don't drink alcohol. But most people after an AuraTransformation taste alcohol and they don't even want it. Like for the initial few months or something, 6 months, or I didn't drink at all for the first 6 months or year or something. And then people test me. They're like, oh yeah, I didn't believe you. And then I had a beer and it was horrible, you know? So like, it's almost like when you raise frequency, there's certain things that don't taste as good. But I don't want to be someone's parent and be like, don't do it. So the idea is this, you know, feel what's right for you. But yeah, don't. And I would also say, this is my personal Sarah Jennings opinion, is I would avoid plant medicine around, or even mushrooms and stuff like that, like psychedelics, because they're different planet energies. It's like you're trying to crystallize from the Venus energy, your spirit in your body. It's like a very particular energy thing you're doing. And then you're mixing in like Neptune energy, loads of alcohol, Uranus energy, mushrooms, and then all this other stuff. And it's like mixing, something's trying to make structure in your body and you're trying to make, you know, psychedelic soup. It's like a different thing happening, and you may as well just let the AuraTransformation do its thing and then experiment if you really need to. And a lot of people that go that think that, oh yeah, I know I'm going to do plant medicine, ayahuasca at some point, and then they have an AuraTransformation and they lose interest. And in a way, the AuraTransformation is doing the same. In a way, I've had the spirit of ayahuasca drop clients off for me, and she's sort of gone, here you go, like, please have this one. And so I've seen her and kind of engaged with her and spoken with this energy, and I've never done it myself, so I know of the energy. But my understanding is that all of the lessons that you're going to learn or need to learn or want to learn, the ones that ayahuasca help you see in like one big whoosh, it's the AuraTransformation is also doing that, but over a longer period of time and a more kind of gradual process where each bit is digestible, if you like. Yeah, so I don't know if that's what you meant, but okay, good. Okay, wonderful. So I will download this and send it on, and thank you so much for sticking with me. I kind of knew an hour and a half and me would be ambitious, but yeah, thank you so much for all being here. And I forgot to do the little demo thing, so if you've stuck around, maybe we should do that for like a couple of minutes. All I want to do is for you to feel what it feels like to pull your energy in and send the field's energy away. But because I'm doing it when we're talking from a crystal or transformation perspective, it might feel quite powerful for you. So I don't know, there's 11 of you left, so why not? Let's just do it because I said I would, and then I can put it in the email that we did that. So if you just close your eyes, I'm actually going to switch me off because I get distracted by my own face. So just close your eyes. And just take a moment to assess where your energy and attention goes every day, all day long. Does it go to people, to places, to work, to interests that you have? Is your energy stuck in some past story? Is your energy wrapped up in a relationship? Or it's just not good or bad. I'm just saying, let's just assess how much of all those threads that come out of you, where are they? Just notice that there's maybe quite a lot here, there, and everywhere. And I'd like you to now really pull those energies in. So it feels like a hoover or a suction or some kind of like really gathering the energies into your body. So you're sort of filling yourself up again, filling the battery. Really, really do it with some oompa, like some oomph. Really reel in those thoughts, all that giving, talking, feeling, all that. Just pull it in into the center, untangling a little bit from all the realms and places and people that you play in and with. Just for a moment, you're being contained in your own energy. Just feel yourself still filling up, actually. I can feel it's like we're 3/4 of the way. So keep going. Good. One more big pull in. Okay. And now imagine all the people and places you go and all of their energies coming at you, towards you, people thinking about you, people loving you, people dreaming about you, people wanting you to do things, energies coming out of the internet, trying to entice you, your phone, news, the TV, people say hi to you in the street, just all the energy that comes at you around you. Just notice it for now. Just notice how much input comes towards you. Maybe you have children that are always like asking things. Maybe you work in a busy place. Maybe you have a lot of clients, and you're in the field with them, in the energy field with them. And then beyond that, maybe a little bit further away, is all of the energy from your past, all your past connections, all the places you've lived, all the places you've been. There's little threads of energy sort of connected in as well. Maybe some stories are still very live, even though they're long gone. So now I'd like you to do the opposite of what we just did, which is now to push away energy that doesn't belong to you. So you're just making room, like a force field around you is pushing outwards, making more room for your energy. So really just push. Some people might feel it a bit like shoveling snow. You know, when you push snow away from you with a shovel, it's a bit like that. Other people just might feel a strong magnetic force from the core going outwards. Some of you might want to use fire hoses, you know, like blasting the edges. You're not hurting anyone in doing this. You're just really making room and space for you to be able to move and breathe. So just try that. Sending energy away that doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. You don't have to wear it, carry it. Just energy is going back to wherever it came from. You can say, if you need to, in a purified form or with love. I just send it back as it is. It's not, it just goes back to where it came from. And if you need to, I can feel that's harder for some of you. So maybe choose one person you really want to send their energy back. That might help you get it going. And also, for some of you, maybe all of you, push energy away from behind you. That's energies you don't really maybe know what they are. They're maybe more manipulative or just sort of pushy energies. People talking about you maybe. So just push away energies from behind you as well. Unhook, unplug, whatever is there. And breathe as well. And it feels harder still. So I'm feeling stuff on the back of the head somehow. And it could be collective. It could be, you know, some sort of big societal collective pushing and pulling. So it's almost like we want to just slip away from whatever that collective stuff is. We don't want to fight it. It's impossible. So just slip away out of the grasp of whatever that is. I think that's a bit better. And try one more big kind of explosion, if you like, of making room for you, for your energy. And just feel yourself maybe expand or unfold. Take a bit more room to be your own shape in your own way, being yourself. There's a bit more room. Maybe some of you want to unfold your wings or feel a bit taller, or some of you might be bending into silly shapes to please others or to fit in. So just let yourself kind of unfurl and heighten, open up a little bit in your own energy, in your own space. Okay. So just know that what we've just done is like a tiny, tiny version of what we do on a humongous scale in an aura transformation, really reclaiming your energy from all sorts of places and timelines and history and everywhere, and also sending and making room for your energy to be in your truth and your alignment. So just check in with yourself, like open your eyes and wiggle your fingers and whatever you need to do, stretch, and just see if you feel any different, or you know, you might, maybe your eyesight's a bit clearer, or the room looks a bit brighter, or it does for me anyway. Maybe you just feel less like stuff around you. And yeah, just notice you can do that anytime, what we just did. But it's like very effective after an aura transformation. It's one of our main tools that we share with people to keep up with what's happening to them as they crystallize. Thank you, everybody. I look forward to hearing from you. Don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and I will send all of that. Was fab. Yes. Well, I can still feel there was plenty to do for some of you. There's something going on here. Yeah, so it just means vigilance every day. Try and come into more of your energy and let go of other people's stuff. Yay. I'm glad we did that. Nice. And just because I can't really see, well, I'm gonna wave. Bye everyone. Thank you so much. It was lovely to spend time with you, and take care. Bye.